All right. What day is it right now? I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue what day it is when you guys are going to be listening to this chunk of pre-record video. I just did a recording with a Randy Surdick out of Washington State, Green Mountain area. And of course, another member of the Club of No Return. He's seen these people 2 different times, I believe, and had a bunch of ongoing things happen. So, anyways, we had a great conversation. So either you're going to hear this one right now first or his first. I'm not sure which one yet. Either way, whatever. There's a fly in here. Anyway. Hot coffee reload. Sarah's going to be back home this evening, bringing home the daughter and a niece. It's going to be a houseload of female chaos going on here this evening. And then later on tomorrow, I head back out to the coast and hit the ocean. Anyway, but I'm going to get some voices heard while I'm here. And then what? Then I'm going to go out and start staining the chicken coop. Anyway, quick note for anybody who might be curious. I didn't realize this until yesterday and Sarah told me. A little off topic, but of interest anyway. So she's been always, she's amazing in the kitchen. She doesn't let me cook. I'm good in the kitchen too. I'm just saying, I don't expect the lady in the relationship to be the cook. It's just not the way it is. I mean, in our first, I don't know how many months of our relationship, I cooked dinner for her almost every single night. As much as I could. But anyway, she has been mastering baking fresh sourdough bread. And she's finally nailing it. It's not good for the tummy, my weight, but you can't stop eating it. It's so good. She's nailing it. But anyways, what I'm getting at is, on the boat, I'll take out a handful of elk steaks and elk sausage, throw them in the freezer on the dock, and then one easy meal for me in the evening is to make sausage dogs. Love them. It's easy. It's just fuel for me. When I'm by myself, I'm not too picky. It's just fuel. That's all there is to it. But it's so easy. I'll get those fresh hot dog buns. I buy them from the grocery store, slice them open, put all the stuff in there, and the fresh elk sausage, and hammer a handful of those back. Anyway, they ran out of the fresh white bread, hot dog buns, I guess you want to call them, that they make in store. And there's a bunch of brown ones there. And I grabbed a pack of each. Anyway, I had some leftover, half of the bag of the brown fresh baked hot dog buns from the grocery store. I brought them home. And then the next day, Sarah's like, hey, you want some salmon sandwiches for lunch made out of this bread? I'm like, okay, why not? And we ate it. And next thing you know, both of us are bloating up and burping and feeling disgusting. Definitely not from our salmon. And she right away said it's a store-bought bread. I'm like, really? And anyways, what I'm getting at is she explained there's only 3 ingredients for the fresh homemade bread. 3. And she got on the label of the hot dog buns, 18. I think 18 or 20. 18 for sure. I probably went into shock when she counted 18. Different ingredients in that bread. Holy shit. Now that I've tasted this absolute delicious frickin' bread with 3 ingredients, why do they need 18? Right? Anyways, just thought I'd share that. Felt pretty disgusting for half the day. Oh, it sucks when you get feeling like that, right? Now let me adjust my camera a little bit here. There we go. Now, what do we got? Who do we got? You know, I really enjoy talking to people one-on-one instead of reading emails. I enjoy it a lot. And so far, 100% of every person I've spoken to firsthand from here It's been such a treat for me, and everybody seems to be chill, comfortable in their own skin, and well aware. It's very, very, very comforting in a way to realize that and talk to all the people from here and find the pattern and the demeanors and the personalities. You know? Now, let's get into it. This email is titled, What Happens When This Knowledge Spreads? Hey, Steve, this is Tom D. I've been listening to you for more than a year. There are many who appreciate what you're doing. Thanks so much. You're too welcome. It's nothing without people writing in. I wrote to you last year and you shared my encounter on your channel. It took place in Washington State on the backside of Mount Pilchuck. Holy shit. That's exactly where this past podcast, the majority of the action was at, being mentioned on the podcast, was Mount Pilchuck. Green Mountain. I've done my own research and I know these things are real. Isn't it interesting how personal bias keeps people from finding truth? I've learned that self-honesty is required to find truth. The truth about anything. But most people are too distracted by all the mindless garbage on TV or on the internet to listen to themselves and to question themselves, to get to that level of self-honesty. And as a result, our kids are being brought up to believe in a bunch of nonsense. It's sad. As the personal encounters keep rolling into you and you share them, certain characteristics of these beings are coming into view. The list is long, so I'll just mention a couple. They seem to have abilities that we apparently do not, at least not now at the present time. For example, anywhere there are trees and bushes, they apparently can come and go as they please. They also can hide themselves extremely well and observe us any time we're in the woods. And they, or at least some of them, can speak to us in our minds. Or maybe it's just that some of us can receive this communication. I don't know. In any event, there have been many encounters that describe that when a person gets to a point that acknowledges them, accepts them as real, they tone it down and sometimes go away. It's very interesting. Is that their motivation? To get our acknowledgement? And why do they target certain personality types? Maybe they can sense when a person is more likely to accept their existence. Again, I don't know. Where's all this leading? I was thinking about it and I had a thought. Right now, what percentage of the population believes in these things? For sake of discussion, let's say about 1%. As more people come out and share their experiences and others listening do their own research and their own thinking, that percentage grows. It's growing every day. Think about it. Very soon, maybe even this year, it'll be 2%, then 3%. It won't take that many months before it's 10%. And it will keep growing. Right now, today, very few people walk into the woods acknowledging them, but the number is growing. What happens when the majority of hikers / campers / hunters walk into the woods acknowledging them? What happens when this knowledge spreads and these beings realize they are no longer hidden? Surely we're heading in this direction. Will they retract into their caves or dimensions or whatever, or even more? Or will they come out? And then what? It really does feel like our civilizations are on a collision course. In a video several months ago, you were talking about the insane level of deceit going on today in politics and in the news, media, and you said, doesn't it feel like something big is going to happen with all the shit going on in the world right now? And I have to agree with you. Take care, Steve. Please be careful out there, Tom D. There you go. That's a different angle to take a look. Tom, and appreciate that, throwing it in there as a result of your wheels turning. I don't know. Is that the case? Do they disappear after they realize we acknowledge them, their existence? I don't know. I haven't had that pattern thought, the thought of that coming up in my mind to put on a shelf yet myself. I don't know. Maybe some people listening right now can relate to what you just said about that. I don't know. I don't know myself, my man. Interesting angle to take a look, though. I appreciate sending that email. I love it when people send in emails with their wheels turning and they share some thoughts with the people. That's how we get ahead. My Idaho Sasquatch experience. Steve, my buddy, longtime hunting. Steve, my buddy and longtime hunting partner, turned me onto your channel, which he is hooked on, and in part has now made him take a serious look at the existence of Sasquatch. He's known about my encounter for years, but I don't think he really believed it until now that he is seeing so much evidence. And thank you for that. There's nothing here without you, man. So thank you too. My encounter happened when I was about 12 years old in the mid-70s. I went camping with a friend and his family during the summer near Stanley, Idaho. We were in a well-developed campground that had multiple camping spots, but were all separated by trees or brush, etc. And we're not really close together. The place we camped was wide open next to a small creek on one side and surrounded by willow brush on the other. I remember thinking that the willows looked like they were groomed as they grew almost perfectly, the same height like a carpet, and stood about 7 feet tall. There were no trees or any other vegetation growing in them that stood taller than the willows. My friend and I were sleeping in the back of his dad's truck, which had a shell on it. The second night, about 3 or 4 in the morning, nature called and I had to urinate. So I opened the back of the shelf, stepped out of the truck, and was proceeding to relieve myself. The willows were on my left about 25 feet away, and behind the willows was a nearly full moon. The moonlight made the willows look like a complete black mass, but the sky above them was well lit. While doing my business, I glanced over at the willows, and it was that perfect same height carpet look I noticed the first day we got there. While doing my business, I glanced over at the willows, and it was that perfect same height carpet look, and I noticed the first day we got there, except this time there was a huge set of shoulders and a head sticking above. The figure was completely black as the moon was behind it. At first, this really freaked me out, causing me to stop my business midstream. I figured my mind was playing tricks on me. That's until the figure slowly turned around and looked behind itself, then turned back and looked at me again, then turned and walked away through the willows and disappeared. If there was an Olympic event for getting back into your sleeping bag, I would have taken a gold medal as I flew back into the truck, quickly shut the hatch on the shell, and was zipped up in my bag with it clear over my head in no time flat. I forgot to finish relieving myself either, but was not about to go back outside. The old bulletproof sleeping bag, right? Isn't that funny how we react like that and get that false sense of securement? The following morning, I told my friend what happened. We went into the willows where the Sasquatch stood to watch me the night before, and there was a perfect trail with the willows smashed down, leading about 50 yards out to the main dirt road running through the campgrounds. In the middle of this trail was a sandy spot with a perfect footprint that had to be at least 20 inches long. My friend accused me of making the whole story up and making the footprint as a joke. However, on the way home, a news announcement came across the radio that several Bigfoot sightings had been reported in the Stanley area over the weekend. My friend just looked at me with his jaw gaping open. I just smiled and said, "I told you." Thanks for proving or providing this forum. Sincerely, Cliff. Please don't use my last name. I got you, my man. Appreciate you sending that in. Big time appreciate you sending that in. And welcome to the club. Not too far off from what I saw too when I was a teenager, but it didn't turn around and look as it sort of started slinking back and getting out of my sight when I spoke to it. Yola Bolly Wilderness. Y-O-L-L-A, capital B-O-L-L-Y. Wilderness. Hey, Steve, gonna try and give you some punctuation and legible text. First off, former USFS employee on the Mendocino NF, Corning Ranger District to be exact, 88 to 96. Wide-eyed kid, fresh out with a forest management degree, and into the works of the coastal range of Northern California. Grabbed every job thrown at me. Qualified for all the wildland firefighting jobs that were available. And was that hyperactive punk that all the old-timers would tell to chill. One of those annoying little pricks. Just kidding. I worked the timber side, marking trees pre-timber sale, but was always waiting for something to bust, fire-wise. Picked up an overtime gig with the wilderness crew. Needed help clearing trails from blowdown firs, crosscut saws only, no mechanicalized anything. A real wilderness region. So, pushing up into the sticks and conversing with the other wilderness crew members, I discovered that this was their first trek around the eastern side of the said area. So, a whole bunch of rookies. Great. The non-member of the crew, myself, had a USGS quad map and a compass, and got our asses to a location that had spring and decent tent placement options, called the Frying Pan, if anyone gives a flip. Just bivvy tents, small fire for coffee, then off to the land of NOD. Awoke around 2 a.m. with footsteps around the head of my bivvy. Quite certain footsteps. No fear involved. Not any of the panic or freak out, but a thought to stay still. And I did, and listened, and my sleeping bag thought was, the mice like the salt in your laces. 6 a.m., my new white boots outside of my bivvy, unlaced. Leather laces hanging in the cedar above. Very large, shuffled or smudged prints around my tent. And not a word from others. Just my dumbass saved. Many times a bivouac on fire since, and never a leather lace. But that place, too close to the Patterson-Gimlin film area, and too real. This is my first, maybe, but the Mendocino is rife with stories. More of mine to come. All right, that's a little confusing for me to read for a little bit. So I think what you meant was, or what did you say, frying pan? Footsteps around the bivvy. "6 a.m., my new white's boots outside of my bivvy, unlaced. Leather laces hanging in the cedar above." So does that mean you put them up there, or you found them up there? Interesting. All right, gotcha. I gotcha. That's kind of coincidental, because yesterday we had a fire jumper come on here and talk to me one-on-one. Only he saw the person making the footprint sounds standing right there in front of him from his bivvy. And there you go. Another club member anyway, right, you guys? Keep us posted. I don't know if you sent in any more, but make sure you send to the rest of your experiences if you would. There's a lot of people here that are interested in hearing them. Took 30 years is the title of this email. Well, it took 30 years and stumbling across your channel for me to put this together. Started in 1993, and I'd like to keep my name out of it for now. For you, my name is blank blank. I live in a small town right on the Missouri River. I spent my life hunting and fishing. Not much else to do around here. In 93, me and a good friend of mine put his canoe in a creek. We had a major flood that year, so the creek was more than a small river. More like a small river. And we're going to canoe down to the mouth and do a little fishing. About halfway down, we came around a bend, and something made the loudest splash I've ever heard. I mean something massive. I had my Ruger 1022 with me, but I knew instantly it was going to be of no help to something this large. It sounded like a hippo had fallen from a tree. It made a giant splash, but that was it. Of course, we tried to come up with an explanation, but couldn't. And fast forward 10 years, half a mile from the first incident, me and a buddy were bow hunting for whitetails one evening. Got to be about dark, and I walked back to the truck, and about 30 minutes passed, and my buddy hadn't come out yet. I figured he had stuck one and was getting it dressed. Well, another 30 minutes passed and still nothing. And I jumped out of the truck and was gonna go look for him. Right then, he popped over the hill. He was running and completely out of breath, and I asked him if the boogeyman was after him, and he said yes, and jumped in the truck. He said when he walked in earlier that evening, he noticed something was following him off to his left. He hurried to his deer stand and was hoping once he was elevated, he would be able to see what it was. Still couldn't see anything. But whatever it was pacing back and forth behind his stand in the woods. He was freaked out. Whatever it was wouldn't leave. It got dark, still wouldn't leave. He knew he couldn't stay there forever, so he finally got the courage to jump down and took off running. At first, he thought it may have been a mountain lion. We don't have mountain lions here. Fast forward 10 years, 3 miles up the road from that incident, I bought some ground and built a house for me and my family. I had 300 acres to roam and hunt. Me and my son, who was 4 at this time, spent a lot of time hunting for arrowheads. And one day, we were on the Ranger, heading back to the house, and as we came across the field, a bunch of deer took off. And I didn't pay much attention, but my son was watching them. And about that time, he said, something was chasing those deer. I said, was it coyotes? He said, no, it was big. I jokingly said, maybe it was a bear. He replied, no, it ran like we do. My stomach dropped, and I floored it. Fast forward 4 years, my son is 8 at this point, and we were way back in the farm, arrowhead hunting in the creek. And we'd gone up to a spot we had never been to yet. We came upon a little rock bar, and something hit me. It was a little rock. We came upon a little rock bar, and something hit me. It was a little rock. Then another one came down and landed next to me. At first, I figured it was a squirrel dropping acorns or something, and then the rocks got bigger. My son then noticed what was happening. I was getting a bit freaked out. I scanned the woods, the trees, and everything around us, and never saw a thing. So I decided to walk back down the creek a little ways. We got about 50 yards from where we were, and the rocks stopped. So I decided to walk back up there, and the rocks started hailing down again. And needless to say, we hauled ass out of there, and I've avoided that spot ever since. I never have seen anything, and I don't want to. About 6 months later, I was home alone one evening. I was in my baseball card room, sorting through some old cards, and all of a sudden I heard a crazy noise that came from my back deck. It took me a few minutes, but I figured out what the sound was. I have a dog gate up against the steps of the deck, and a heavy iron plant stand-up against it to hold it in place. The sound was the plant stand sliding across my deck. I pretty quickly realized something or someone was on my deck. I jumped up, grabbed my 9mm, and started up the hall. This is the crazy thing. I was completely out of ammo. I'm never out of ammo. That day I shot my last shell at a damn muskrat that is destroying my dam. I was really freaked out at this point, and over the next 20 minutes I was trying to see what it was without showing myself. I was able to turn on the deck light and could see about 3/4 of my entire deck, and I finally decided to grab a knife and just go out there. And as soon as I turned to head back down the hall, I heard 2 steps, and I heard the plant stand roll across the deck. I turned and ran to the window where I could see the steps coming off my deck. These steps are steep, and there's a lot of them. And I saw nothing. Nothing running across the yard, nothing on the steps. It was maybe 2 seconds from the time I heard the steps until I got to the window, and I saw nothing. I convinced myself it was a coyote or a coon or something, and the next day I reloaded on ammo. And I haven't been I haven't been without since. I also haven't had any incidents since. Did they know I didn't have any ammo? Will they come inside the house? Lord, I hope not. Thanks for what you're doing, my friend. This channel gives me a little peace of mind. If you're ever in the Midwest, I have a never-ending supply of 160 plus bucks you're welcome to. Thanks, Joe. That sounds like a familiar invite. And tempting. I don't think they're coming in the house. Missouri River. Welcome to the club, my man. Keep us updated if you've had anything else happen since. There's a lot of people here that may be curious to hear about it. Know who is hunting them, don't know why. Long story short, Department of Interiors. This story has taken me into several disciplines, including philology, and history. To lead to a little bit to how I got there, we start with one of the main questions you asked. Why are we being lied to? Our first data point is that this is a worldwide phenomenon. This would imply collusion among all modernized world governments to not disclose, or more accurately, to cover up. Looking at all the other modern issues world governments concern themselves with, they never all agree. Only thing, all the countries have unilaterally agreed on this, the treaty for no one to go to Antarctica, unilaterally. The Catholic Church around the 1400s tasked all their orders to spread Catholicism over the world, hence the conquistadors and Columbus. They didn't just go to the Americas either. If you ever want your mind blown, look up some of the Catholic orders, like the Jesuits, oaths that they have to swear. They explicitly say they'll even bash babies' skulls in. It's in the Library of Congress. So that's the type of mind that spread over this world and colonized it. The same people who brought Spanish and Portuguese to South and Central America. That's pretty harsh. The exact why, I don't know. But I know the erasing of these creatures from the minds of people started with the Catholic expansion, or at least went into overdrive. I have my suspicions, but nowhere near a comprehensible understanding. Just enough to understand history is misrepresented wildly, both East and West. And by the way, the Catholic Church has been present in China since the 1600s. Everywhere they've been accused by indigenous groups of kidnapping women and children. Sound familiar? All I know is that this being was prominent in Proto-Indo-European culture, where all Caucasians descend. Scythians, Greeks, Romans, Germans, Scots, Russians, Swedes, Danes, all PIE cultures. The Norse were the lat to be Christianized, and as such, we have the most detailed accounts of hairy giants, Jotun, Jotunn. In Norse culture, several of these Aesir, Norse pantheon of gods, were part Jotun. Interesting. Worth remembering, Christianity is an Abrahamic religion which is derived from Afro-Semitic culture. Language groups equals cultures. As for the who, intelligence works on a principle of compartmentalization. That's where we get the term need to know. To your point of whoever runs the media is the devil, whoever runs the media would need to be told about the cover-up explicitly to perform the task. The whole point is to obfuscate the end game in all facets of intelligence while figuring out the enemies. We don't know where the yous and them divide truly lies. The only people who would truly have to know about these things would be the people sent out to hunt them. So, who has authority over the places most of the beings are encountered? Department of Interior. Oddly enough, that was That was quietly a huge problem when Trump took office and even ordered the director back to D.C. as he has his own offices in Yellowstone. He refused. Turned into a big deal. There's also several incidents of DOI covering up discovery of native sites to facilitate the destruction and building over these sites. There was an archaeologist who blew the whistle on it a few years ago. Also, and it's funny you just brought this up in one of your videos this week when you mentioned the crack epidemic. When the Mena Air Force Base scandal happened with the Clintons, there was a Department of Interior plane that was being used to run the drugs. Just by chance, a show came on Discovery a couple years back while I was cleaning house, talking about how this plane, identified by the tail numbers, popped back up on the radar decades later when it was sold to a private family. Somehow the owner of Tops Knives was involved and was allegedly part of the operation. It's worth a watch just to juxtapose that cover-up with this one. The Department of Interior, to me, is the organization to focus on. It's the only organization that would require explicit knowledge of these things to carry out their missions. They have a history of assisting in illicit, illegal, and evil activities. They have a history of covering up Native American heritage. Every country in the world, communist, monarchy, religious, every country have national parks. Even China, who has zero interest in protecting the environment. Not that any of the large countries have a real interest in it anyway, but the Chinese are fairly open about it. Have protected national parks. Why? Roosevelt's idea was that good that every country in the world adopted it? They could easily just restrict the land as government property if it was just for the resources within. Along with the nefarious history, I'm dubious. I have much more puzzle pieces that are more historically based as we have to get back to before the world is how it is, now to understand the why. Why would a bunch of Mithraic Roman aristocrats convert the largest empire in the world to Christianity such a short time after feeding them to lions in the Colosseum? I have more detailed information regarding that, but again, still incomplete, about 100. I'd bet my life on it. I'm on the right track. Hope this helped. Thanks for pushing the conversation forward. and thank you to you for pushing it forward too. The wheels are turning. Some people are going to be left going, huh? And other people here are going to be nodding their heads or shaking their heads. All good. Take from what you will or leave it. Right, you guys? Who's next? All right, this next one. No title. I realized it wasn't two bears. Please forgive me for my typos and grammar. Steve, one reason people are afraid is because of ridicule. To some people, ridicule is one of the worst things that can be done to a person. I feel that people need validation of these creatures to put those who ridicule and make fun of back on their place. They need an underdog, so to speak. No one wants to be different, singled out, or have fingers pointed at them. I have a short story of an experience I had as an 18-year-old teenager in the mountains of Colorado. I was in a remote area by Steamboat Springs. I think the year was 87 and it was spring. I was camping by a river in an old broken-down cabin that belonged to a friend's family. One morning I decided to go trout fishing and enjoy the morning air and what nature has to offer. I was not at all prepared as to what I was about to see. I started to trout fish when a pebble or something hit the water in front of me. Thinking about this is giving me goosebumps as I speak, and I'm 53 now. Anyhow, I kind of dismissed the ideas of it being a pebble, but maybe some fish had started to hit the top of the water. Again, another pebble was thrown into the water, and this time I figured it was coming from a tree across the river by a squirrel or something. Still yet, I figured it was nothing to worry about. And it was then, about that time, I had noticed that there were no birds chirping or doing what birds do. I noticed it was dead silent, other than the breeze and the water making noise. I knew there were a bear in the area, but all I had with me was my little .410 shotgun. I knew this was not enough to kill a bear, but maybe deter it long enough for me to get back to the cabin. It was about this time I noticed movement up on the rocky slope with pine trees. I saw something with reddish-brown hair, and it got up and started to move across the hill. And when I say it got up, I mean it stood up. At first I thought it was a couple of bear that were together, and both were standing up to get something out of a tree. I could just feel something was off, so I started to walk back towards the cabin with my little cap gun in tow, and it was then I realized it was not two bears standing up together. It was one big creature, and it was looking at me. You know, I hunt, and I've hunted all my life, and when I think about it now, I know what I saw was not fake. When you hunt and you have been around enough animals, you look at their eyes and their demeanor. This creature was most definitely real. He, she, or it had my attention, and we both knew it. Funny thing is, it wasn't really showing aggression, but just letting me know, hey, I'm in your spot. Or maybe it was just curious about me and what I was doing. I never turned my back on the creature, and even though it was across the river, I decided I'd had enough and started walking backwards, never taking my eyes off of things. I stumbled over the rocks and stumps to get back to the cabin because I was basically walking backwards. It never left and just watched me walk away. I got back to the cabin, and my friend, who was still sleeping, asked me where I went. I told him, and I told him what I saw, and I thought we should go. At first I was reluctant to tell him because of the ridicule, but as I told him, he did not look surprised, and he said, they've always been here, and they never bothered anyone before. And don't use my name. You can use my story if you want. Sorry for the typos, I did this on my phone. And as a healthcare worker, it's hard to find time to do things these days. Take care, and please understand, sometimes the people who need the proof are the ones who have experienced something, and they are the ones who are asking for proof for themselves to know they are not crazy. One thing is certain. I live in rural Missouri now, and I love to hunt, but when I do, I lock and load as soon as I start walking. If I ever see one here, I will quit hunting and sell my small farm. Thank you for your time. Well, I hope you don't do that, because they are there. They're everywhere, these other people. Locked and loaded the second you leave the vehicle. Can't say I really blame you, and you're obviously not going to be the only one. Welcome to the club. I know you didn't ask to join it, but you're in. There's no escape. There's no escape in this club. Once you're in, you are in. What do we got here? What do we got? Who's next? This next email is titled, Calls in the Night in West Cork. C-O-R-K, Cork. Hi, Steve. My name is Sam Scannell. Feel free to use it. I'm following your channel for over a year now, and it's been refreshing to find a channel that doesn't dictate or bullshit. Just share stories with people from around the world. Thank you for providing that platform. You're too welcome, my man, and it's nothing without you, all right? I live on the Mizzen Peninsula in West Cork, Ireland. Oh, wow. I'm familiar with all the wildlife and the calls they make, and around 2 weeks ago, I was in my cabin. It was 11:30 p.m. at night, and I was just about to turn in for the night when I heard a strange animal call outside. It was so loud. The only way I can describe it is that it sounded like the calls you hear on those dinosaur shows, or like a whale call only above the water. Wow. It wasn't a bird, no way. Not at that time, and not with that volume and pitch. This thing, whatever it was, had a big set of lungs, Steve. I've lived here all my life, and I've never heard a sound like it, and it was eerie. It continued for around 10 minutes, and then it stopped. It didn't sound like it was too far away from my cabin. It was freaky as hell. I mentioned it to a friend of mine up in the village a few days later, and he said he heard it too, and was as freaked out as I was. God knows what it was, but it did not belong in this environment or countryside. Who knows what things visit from dimensional portals or from even further afield. Thanks again, Steve. All the best to you and yours. Sam Scannell. Sam, appreciate you, man. I'm sure you probably know by now. You're not the only one from Ireland to email into us, all right? But you might want to maybe possibly speak with some of the people in your community openly and ask them if they ever possibly seen something that looks like a human but wasn't. Just do it. It's harmless. And then if somebody looks at you weird in a judging kind of way, just say, I don't know, I just heard somebody mention something like that crazy. I don't know. Walk away. You know what I mean? You know pretty quick whether or not to push the topic with people. Other people. No title in the subject line of this email. Steve, thank you for keeping the people informed about what we can bump, smell, hear, what can bump, smell, hear, or harm us while we're in the woods. Also, how to keep being able to enjoy being there. My husband and I, we usually go and gather wood for the winter to keep our home warm. We obtain permits to cut dry wood, pine wood. This time on the border of Idaho and Montana, the same year when that Kunz's boy disappeared. Kunz', boy disappeared on July 10th, 2015. We live about 100 miles south in Idaho. About 2 or 3 years ago, we were there then, my husband and I, after we had been on this mountain spot for about one day at this place. My husband sawed off enough pine trees to fill up our truck, almost clear full. The trailer behind, he had left for tomorrow. Tired, we went to sleep after having a sandwich and some hot cocoa to drink. Morning came. As I know, my husband, he had to have something to do before breakfast. He started sawing one tree. Then I jumped up from my sleeping bag and went outside the tent a few yards away by the trees to relieve myself. Looking for some trees, I got the feeling that I shouldn't go clear to the trees way over there Looking for some trees, I got the feeling, that I shouldn't go clear to the trees way over there a few more yards too far, period. So I said to myself, quote, this early in the morning, nobody's going to be around except my husband and I. We've not seen anyone by the trail either. I do not need to hide myself anywhere. In the clear of the pine trees and the tall grass, I felt safe. Then, oh, no, not really. I felt I should hurry along, like if someone was watching me, though I couldn't see anyone while pulling my pants up. Then I said to myself one more time, I better hurry along. And that is when I heard knocking in the woods. 3 wood knockings for sure. From far in the trees from my left toward the hillside. It was loud and clear. I've never heard anything like that before. I felt lucky to experience that, though worried I felt I should immediately go back to my husband, who kept sawing on a tree near our tent. Once there, I said to him, honey, I went way over there almost by those trees, pointing, and I heard 3 tree wood knockings. And to my surprise, he said, I heard 3 knockings last night, too. I just didn't want to awake you and tell you then. I didn't want to frighten you. Woohoo, you heard it too, I said. I believe him because I've heard him telling me about his own experiences of weird sounds in the woods before. I suppose the noise from the chainsaw and the falling of the trees were keeping what was making that wood noise away. We left fast as soon as we were done. Thank you. Could I use your name? I hate that part. All right, you didn't say not to use your name. Carmenza Blaine. And then it carries on. Another time. My husband and I... My husband and I, we are hunters to keep fresh meat at the table. since we were first married. We also went gathering wood earlier in our lives to keep our home. Wait, I just read that twice. It's weird. You sent me the same email. Hold on. Oh, it's a different email. All right, hold on. Sorry, guys. Another time, my husband and I, we are hunters to keep fresh meat at the table since we were first married. We also went gathering wood early in our lives to keep our home warm during the winter. This time, we were a little close to Yellowstone Park. We got there just in time to set our tent. While we were sound asleep, to my horror, I heard a loud noise like a bear growl right by my ear. I thought my heart was going to jump off of my chest because it was pumping so fast. My husband was so tired and his hearing's not very good. I did not want to make any sound having that bear so close to me with only the thin cloth between me and that bear. I tried to wake my husband up, not making any noise. No luck. Oh, no. No, that bear roared one more time right by my ear. I made sure my husband was awake this time, and he made a lots of noise and said, "Where is it?" and ran out of the tent. And I was surprised he did not see anything. No tracks either, because the ground was dry. That is what he said, circling the tent. This is me again, Carmenza Blaine. Carmenza Blaine. Steve, thank you again for listening. All right, thank you again for emailing us. And I could probably say, I would like to say with confidence, although I wasn't there, that wasn't a bear. Bears are loud. You hear them breathing. Usually. When I've had them on my porch at my last house, I got a video of it. I should post that up here for some time. I took a video a long time ago. This damn bear was coming on my porch a couple times, and I actually put a trail camera on the porch. I went outside. What did I do? I went outside, turned around, came in the house, and seconds later, here he comes, walking right down the length of my porch to my front door. They don't just approach you silently on the other side of a tent and then roar. I can't say I've never heard a bear roar. One time we had a huge freaking pile of roadkill from the Alaska Highway, livestock kill, and a big bone pile in the back field of a guy I know's field off Alaska Highway. There was like, I don't know how many different grizzly bears hitting that thing. Excuse me. And I went circling around it one time in the timber because I saw a massive, massive footprint down on the river about 400 yards away. And I knew he was around there somewhere, and I started circling around. And then I got to a point where the wind was going my direction towards that pile of meat, which is like 300 or 400 away. And I heard that bear let out a big rip from in that timber. It's the only time I ever heard a bear make a sound like that, other than shooting him, right? Maybe it sounds a little harsh to some, but it's true. It's true. Who's next? Mark, this is red. Darn near ran into each other. Steve, my name is Rick, and I'm 48 years old, and I've worked in corrections for 24 years. And I've always been a straight shooter on the truth. Every story I've told has never been twisted or exaggerated at all. I can't stand people who exaggerate and twist the truth. I've been watching your channel for about a year now, and I appreciate what you're doing. It takes guts. Appreciate that, man. I grew up in a military family, and at the time of my incident, we lived in military housing just off the base. I now live in southwestern Oregon, but at that time, in 1979, I lived in Massachusetts. Behind the military housing where I lived was a whole lot of woods. I've never seen anyone go back there except me and some of the other kids I played with. I was 8 at the time, and I told my neighbor friend, who was about the same age, to get his bike so we could go to our spot in the woods, which was a trailhead that led into the woods, just a 5-minute bike ride down a dirt road. I took off a minute or two before him, and I arrived at the trailhead and set my bike down and began walking up the trail, which went up a small hill, then down into the dark forest. I like to practice being stealthy when I walked in the woods, so I don't scare animals because I like to see them. Well, as I walked quietly up the beginning of the trail, a Bigfoot was walking the same trail in the opposite direction, coming towards me from the forest. We damn near ran into each other, I shit you not. This sounds familiar, this one. We were both walking up towards the top of the small hill, so we didn't see each other until we both crested the hill, and then we were visible to each other. I never heard it coming. It was silent. As soon as we saw each other, we both stopped walking and froze, facing each other. We were about 10 to 15 feet apart, and this thing was walking just as smooth as a man, except it was huge, and I mean massive. It was the classic Bigfoot build, 8 to 10 feet tall, covered in dark fur, and a huge shoulder width, and an extremely powerful build. No humans built like that. Bigfoot was the only damn thing it could have been. It never made a noise, and I sensed that it was just as surprised as I was, and it felt like, oh shit. I've been seen, what do I do? I sensed intelligence as well. After seeing this, which was about 1 second, I immediately took off back towards my bike and saw my friend pulling up on his bike. I was so scared I screamed, "Go, go, go now." I took off back home faster than I've ever ridden a bike. I could have beat Lance Armstrong, no problem. I didn't make out any facial features of the creature because I was coming off a sunny road into the dark forest, looking at a dark hair-covered creature, and my eyes hadn't quite adjusted yet, but there's absolutely no doubt it was a Bigfoot. It was literally 10 to 12 feet from it. Also, in about 2012, here in Oregon, I drove deep into the woods to visit Bolin Lake by myself one day. It was off-season, so nobody around, and that's where I experienced wood knocking for the first time, so one must have been eyeing me. Thanks for all you do, Steve. These things are real, and very interesting to say the least. I'd rather keep my full name out, at least until I retire in just over a year. This one sounds familiar. Did I read your name? Oh, well, I didn't read your full name. First name, no biggie. And there you go. Another club member, close up. And another close-up encounter of potentially having dirt in between, right? That's one of my the mysteries I was trying to figure out when my grandfather ran into that thing. And I just couldn't figure out. I'm like, well, how the hell did it not know my grandfather was there until it saw him? So if it's squatting down on the creek bottom, my grandpa was back in the timber, that puts a lot of dirt between him and that being, right? Like aggregate, dirt. Or maybe it had something to do with the water it was standing next to. But here we go. Now we just got... So that's a little thought in the back shelf of my head for a long time. And then I read one like this. And the boy was on... When he was a boy's on one side, Sasquatch on there, going towards each other with a hill of dirt in between them. No water. And that being didn't detect that little boy walking up to have a face-to-face with him. Right? Just a thought. But anyway. Very interesting. Anyways, I best to be going on my way. I think maybe possibly Sarah has somebody lined up one more time tomorrow morning to speak with me on here, maybe before I go back out. If so, I'm looking forward to it, and obviously I'm going to share that right away as soon as I can. Funny, I always have something I want to say to everybody, and I don't remember until I get out of here. Maybe I should start writing that shit down on a notepad, right? Anyway. You know, the other day, I can't stop thinking about the other day when, oh man. Why is my brain farting? So many names lately. When Jason Walters shared watching those blue orbs dropping down and trailing in behind that upright being that he watched go back into the timber while firefighting years ago. What an interesting thing, right? We had another guy from up northern British Columbia saw the same thing, but I think he saw multicolor lights in front of the chest of this being walking along or standing by down on the ditch, I believe on their side of a bridge or something, below a bridge, wherever it was, side of the highway, side of the road, near Prince George. So many people either see the bright lights or the lights around these people. I call them people, I don't give a shit. But it's the orb thing. It's an orb. Who come up with the term orb? I should search that sucker right now. I'll deal with you guys here because I don't like jumping on I can't jump on anybody's bandwagon with anything in life, it seems. It's like so many people call it infrasound. Do you? Are you just an echo? Or do you know that for sure? You know what I mean? There's a lot of echoing done amongst the human population. I hate echoing. Hate it. I hate mimicking and I hate echoing. What do we see? What is the definition? I'm going to write this in. What is the definition of an orb? And where did it originate? There we go. Let's see what comes up on the programmed mainstream. An orb, in the paranormal and photographic sense, is typically described as a spherical ball-like light or translucent shape that appears in photos or videos, often taken in low light or with a flash. People sometimes interpret them as spiritual entities, ghosts, or energy forms, though skeptics attribute them to natural causes like dust, pollen, rain, lens flare, or digital sensor artifacts. Origin of the term in this context. The word orb itself comes from the Latin orbis, meaning circle or disc, and in English has been used since the 1400s to describe anything spherical. In the paranormal sense, the concept rose to popularity during the mid-1990s when consumer digital cameras became common. These cameras, with their short focal lengths and built-in flashes, easily illuminated close-up particles that appeared as floating spheres in the image. People started calling these orbs. There you go. The echoes. While spherical lights have been mentioned in folklore and spiritual writings for centuries, example, will-o'-the-wisp spirit lights. The modern photographic orb phenomenon is directly tied to digital imaging technology, rather than ancient ghost lore. If you're talking outside of paranormal use, orb can also mean a literal sphere, geometry, astronomy. A ceremonial object, like the sovereign's orb in British coronations. A poetic or literary term for celestial bodies like the sun or moon. All right, there you go. There you go. First time I ever actually looked into the meaning of ORB, an orb. Will I be using the orb to describe the balls of energy floating around or behind these people or in the forest? Nope. Not me. I'm done with the orb term. Whatever these round balls of light are that vary in color, that's exactly what they are to me as of right now. They are just a ball of energy with a shade of color. That's what I'm going to refer to them as for myself. Why? Well, I just explained why with the definition of it. Until these balls of energy, where they originated from, tells me directly what they actually are, I'm just going to call them a ball of light. Ball of light. What color was it? I don't know. You know what I mean? Let's just say, well, right now, anywhere from blue to red to yellow to white, and various sizes. I've had one kind person came on here recently with me and described it as the size of a buoy out in the ocean. Saw that thing come down, drop down, explode over the treetops, and light the place up like daylight. Described right down to the size of a BB, meaning a BB gun. Tiny. 0.177, right? What else? I've had them emailed to me as being the size of a volleyball going down the middle of the old country bush road trail in the bush. I've seen them on my trail camera moving around weirdly behind the fir tree and around it. I've videotaped white, hot, bright light. I videotaped two of them way up the mountain in the middle of December, I believe it was, beginning of December, probably. It would have been probably minus 35 up there. And I recorded that at about 5 in the morning. Bright light. It's an orb. Who said to call it an orb? Who told you to call it an orb? You know what I mean? Minor, babble, Whatever. It's just the way my brain goes. Just like people repeat, well, it's Gigantopithecus. Is it? How'd you come up with that? Well, some other human beings said it, so I mimicked them. Oh. Gotcha. See what I'm getting at? Anyway. Here I go. I'm bambling. I got a lot of shit to do. I will definitely be back later, and hopefully with somebody else one-on-one. Share my story at howtohunt.com, alright, you guys? Get me your truth.